Peace, come on, family. How you doing? It's Mr. R2 here at Consistency is Currency, your morning podcast of choice. I would just like you for being here, like always. That part will never change, so get you. Today is June the 16th. I don't know why I always have to look at the date, probably because I want to make sure that I'm not saying the wrong thing, which is a good thing. Sometimes it's always great to be sure about something. Which kind of plays into what we're going to be communicating about today is just being sure, knowing and understanding the difference between wanting and deciding. That is a choice. That is a choice that we have, and a choice that we have to make. So for those that are watching right now in the Facebook space, I thank you and I appreciate you for just being here, because you don't have to be. It is morning. You could be doing anything in the morning, but you're doing it right here with me here at Consistency is Currency. So good morning to you, and just being alive, like I always say, on this side of the dirt. You can be 6 feet deep, or you can be 6 feet up, or 5'2", however your height is. But just appreciate, you, just like we always do, appreciate one another as well. So good morning, good morning, good morning. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started and get into it. So the title itself, I know initially we were saying, are you wanting or deciding? But what I want to do is really pay attention and focus on communicating about the difference between wanting and deciding. Because a lot of times we decide, sometimes our decision is not really based off of, is not really formulated with what we truly wanted. And I think we get mixed up all the way from Waco, where you're up like early because you had to get there. So the difference between our wanting and our deciding. So let's go ahead and get started with that. With the difference between a wanting and deciding. So, of course, for people that know the platform, we're always going to go through the words itself and then go into the definition of the words. And even with the etymology, the etymology on today definitely put me in a different perspective and knowing, understanding, these words that we're talking about today. So if there are things that resonates with you during our podcast today, just make sure you go ahead and place those things inside the chat, especially if you're in the Facebook space, or if you're on listening to it on Anchor. Anchor allows you to leave a message. So leave a message and I will play your message at the beginning of the next podcast. So if you want to be heard and what you said, then leave a message and I'll put it in the front. All right. Anyway, so let's jump into it. The difference between wanting and deciding. So wanting is said to be defined as not existing or supplied, absent, lacking in a certain required or necessary quality. Lack or be short of something desirable or essential. Now, again, I'm just reading definition. It's not anything that I'm making up or anything that you cannot go and research yourself. Psychologically, we as people, we say we want things all day. But now let's start to look at how those definitions can really play into how we think and into our perception of things that we say that we want, or into the decision-making process, what we do when we decide. So the definition of wanting is not existing or supplied, absent, lacking in a certain required or necessary quality. Lack or be short of something desirable or essential. So the inverse of this is white over red. Not existing or supplied. Lack or be short of something desirable. So how many times have you said you wanted to do something? It does not really come in full manifestation of itself because it is still an idea. It is still something that you haven't really begun to take action on because it is still a concept. So look at the word wanting and understand that it lacks or it is short of something desirable. Now, when you look at the word wanting, you also see the word want. And want is also like wish. So therefore, wanting is like the cousin of faith. The faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So therefore, if the definition of wanting is not existing or supplied, so when are you actually going to transition your wanting into your decision? So let's talk about deciding. It is said the definition of deciding is to come to a resolution in the mind as a result of consideration, as to make up one's mind as to is to make up one's mind as to what shall be done and the way to do it. So which one are you at right now in your goal setting or in your personal lives or whatever? So wanting is non-existent. It's or supply. It lacks or be short of something desirable or essential. Are you still in this phase? But some of us have been in this phase probably for the past 5 years with something that we want to do. We're holding firm to the faith of it happening, but we don't want to grasp it and to make it true or to come to a resolution in the mind as a result of consideration. When are you going to take that idea and allow that idea to come to its physical form, to where it's tangible, where it's something that you can say it is done, or something that you can physically see that is being worked on, and not just something that is inside of your subconscious, but you haven't really put action behind it because you still want it. So let's look at the etymology of deciding. And this is where it kind of threw me. I was like, wow, that's deep. It really is like that. Because the etymology of the word deciding is Latin for desire. Now, I may be saying it wrong, but hey, I don't speak Latin. But in the Latin form of deciding is decidere or whatever it is. It says to cut off. To cut off. Because when you make a deciding factor on something that you want to do, you cut off the doubt. Right? You cut off the fear. Because you have made a conscious effort in how and what you want to do. So in order for it to grow, it's like when you're pruning a rose bush, or even a what's that tree? The small miniature trees. It'll come to me if you know it. Put it in the chat. So it's like a rose bush. A gardener has to go in and prune the rose bush in order for the rose to actually begin to grow. So if you want things to grow and you want things to begin to be prosperous, there are some things that you're going to have to cut off and you're going to have to decide to do in order for it to grow, in order for it to be prosperous, in order for it to take flight and put itself in line with where it's supposed to be. And now let's tap into the difference between wanting and deciding. So when we're taking this deep dive into wanting and deciding and learning and understanding where we are with our wants and where we can be with the decisions that we make. Because wanting and deciding is like cutting off the things that you know that you shouldn't be doing in order for you to put yourself in a position to where you're supposed to be going. So in doing that, you're going to have to understand that emotions and reasons, sometimes our emotions can be our intruder to our process of decision making and the reasoning behind it. Your emotions can get the best of you when it comes to the reasons that you're trying to decide this thing needs to happen. I have decided to start this business, or I have decided to go in this new direction, but your emotions can get the best of you to where doubt sets in. And in order for you to obtain the best results, you have to learn how to take the emotions out of it and just put the facts and the considerations on the table. Because when there is, during the process of critical thinking, we have to make sure that the emotions and the reasons, the emotions and the reasons can actually be just as hard as the decisions and the wanting and the things that you want to decide. Eliminate the emotions when it comes to your decision making, because doubt is a trait of, it has an emotional trait to it. Fear has an emotional trait to it, because those things can become cloudy in your head when those emotions are attached to it. That's why we say, that's why it says write the vision and make it plain. It didn't say write how you feel and decide later. It said write the vision and make it plain. Because if you're writing the vision, if you're writing the things down that you say you want to do, now you have to put in the proper consideration. And what do I want to do, and how am I going to go about doing it? What is the first thing that I do? What are my priorities of work? What are my priorities of standard? What are my priorities that I have set forward for myself in order for me to get this thing done? And those priorities have nothing to do about your emotions. It has nothing to do about, I don't feel like doing it right now. I don't feel like it today. I don't feel like getting up. I don't feel like whatever it is. Subtract those emotions and build on the reasons on why you're doing it. Because there's reasoning behind your. And then when you understand that your emotions and reasons, you have to understand that there is risk and reward. There is a risk and reward, because when you begin and you learn how to subtract your emotions and the reason, now you have a level of comfort that you can say, I am willing to take this risk, because at the end of the risk that I'm taking, there is an reward. There is a reward of accomplishment. There is a reward of confidence. So be okay with the risk, stepping out of your comfort zone, stepping out of your space, because you're learning how to do more things when you actually tried the things that you were afraid to do. So now you can put into your toolbox that you can come back and build upon later, or you can come back and help somebody else because you've already gone through it. You can foresee somebody else's fall because you have already fell in that particular hole. So now you're learning how to take a hold of the risk and acknowledge the reward that comes with it. Something that as I begin to put it together, as far as the learning the difference and the difference between um your wanting and your deciding, is like there's an invisible hand. There's an invisible hand that flips the switch inside of your head. Say, you know what? I am going to turn my wants into my desires. I'm going to turn my wants and desires into my decision. It's like that invisible switch inside your head that operates, and it switch, and it allows you to know and to understand that I have a self-interest to make this happen. And because you have an interest of making this happen, there is something inside of you that has to click. Because some of us prevent the right things from happening only because we get caught up in our own self-interest of emotions, that we forget that the decision that needs to be made. So you have to acknowledge the things that influences your decision actually can influences on the things that you want to do. So understand inside of our mind that there are things that we can actually produce psychologically that can actually convert into something physical. Like if I see that I want to do something, I see it first before I actually go do it. That's that invisible hand that you say, just go do it. Because when you go do it, and now that you get it done, that's the risk and the reward. That extra push that comes, that extra drive that actually begins to boil inside of you, that puts you in a position to say, you know what, I am at my point of success. I feel that I'm just at the hump. I just need to get over this hump. So push the ledge of success and actually begin to work on those things that you know that you need to work on, and make a conscious decision that today's your day to make that deciding factor. That fear is not going to continue to take over my decision. Fear is not going to be the influence in my process. Doubt is not going to be an influence in my decision making. Take that same invisible hand and block those things out and push those things to the side and stand there and stand firm on the decision that you're making. That one of the biggest influence in standing firm is based off of the calculated choices that you've made. Because if you desire to be happy, then do the things that make you happy and stand for decision. Because that firm decision is very essential to your psychological well-being. Because it's your happiness. It's your inner peace. It's what you desire. It's where and what you want to do and how you actually going to go about doing it. Knowing where you're going and putting yourself in line in the direction that is going to take you to get there. So where are you at right now? Are you still wanting to get this done? Are you still wanting to do this particular thing? There's going to come a day that a decision is going to need to be made. That you're going to have to understand that subtracting of the emotions in the thought process is not a bad thing. That may help you actually be a lot more clearer in the process than you getting caught up in so much that is outside of you, but the decision has to be made that is within inside of you. That's your internal and external conflict. There is an internal conflict inside of your head because you are afraid to take the risk that will have an outward reward. It's just like you working out, or it's just like you starting a book. The inner conflict inside of your head say, I will start tomorrow. The inner conflict in your head will say, well, not right now. The inner conflict in your head will say, you know what, I'll start at 1 July. When you say the best time for me to start is now. Let me start writing the first paragraph. Let me start walking the first mile before I'm able to begin the process of running this mile, or before I finish this entire chapter. Let me go ahead and write a few sentences first. That is blocking out those emotions and putting reason behind it, because there is a reward after the risk is taken. That is teaching you how to actually produce and reproduce and to become consistent at it by knowing what you want to do and actually making the conscious effort and the decision to make it happen for you. All right, that's all I got. But one thing that I want you guys to do is to remember that there's a process to everything. But are you willing to process those thoughts? Are you willing to go through with it? Are you willing to follow through with those thoughts? Stand firm on your decision. And remember, you are just as important. Y'all be blessed.